12 months ago, if I told you Jamarra Ugle-Hagan was heading to the Gold Coast Suns, you would have thought it'd be for an absolute king's ransom. It is amazing what one 12-month period can do in an AFL life cycle for a player and a club. But that's what's happened. The former number 1 draft pick from the 2020 draft is now a Gold Coast Sun. Will this be another one of those great redemption arcs that Damien Hardwick is able to produce? And from the Bulldogs, will this come back to bite? We're going to look at both sides of the coin and tell you also what it means from an AFL Fantasy and SuperCoach perspective with the trade of Jamarra Ugle-Hagan to the Gold Coast Suns. No sign of him in 2025. A bunch of reasons off the field prevented him from ever really getting on the field. I don't want to talk too much about those. There's some innuendo. There's always some truth. There's always something that's just not quite accurate. But from a Bulldogs perspective, if we look at what this could mean for them moving forward, clearly the off-field distractions of Jamarra this year is trumping any potential of what they think he could be for them in his future, because he's undoubtedly talented. You don't go number 1 in a draft without having talent. That's clearly not the question that we should be looking at here. But from a Bulldogs perspective, they've spent the entirety of this year on field playing without him. And they've got a pretty handy forward line. Let's not beat around the bush here. A fit, a motivated, a locked in, an absolutely prime Ugle-Hagan works in any AFL system and works in any forward structure. But I feel like this works okay for the Bulldogs. They've got a generational key position father-son in Sam Darcy. If it's not him, it's probably Riley Thilthorpe that is the envy of the league of a key position forward you want to build around. Aaron Naughton really over the last 2 months of the season really turned that consistency back into his game. Hopefully for Bulldogs fans and for Aaron himself, that can maintain for 2026. Riley West really emerged as and I mean this in the nicest way possible, an absolute pest, just getting involved in anything that hit the deck, crumbing the ball beautifully, getting under the skin of opposition defenders, being an absolute pest in the best way possible for the Doggies. And then they've got Cody Waitman coming back in, who missed the entirety of the 2025 season due to injury, who again has got some aerial abilities, but when the ball hits the deck, if neither of Naughton or Darcy get their hands on the ball in a clean marking sense, they just bring it to ground, and you've got Western Waitman that can get to work. So they've got some great options just in those 4 alone, let alone an absolute suite of assets that can roll through there, whether it be wingmen, high half forwards, rotating midfielders, some squad depth options. It's a pretty handy forward line. And so, yeah, Ugle-Hagan would be great, but I feel like they've structured up and had a year of practice without him now. They know he's not clearly coming back. He's being traded. It's not a bad situation. This is not a disaster here for the Bulldogs in terms of options playmakers. Like Jordan Croft has barely been cited at AFL, and he again has been a first-round pick a number of years ago. They're going to be fine for players and options that roll through there. They've got some good developing options still at the lower tiers of their list as well. They've got some nice elite top end. Yeah, Doggy's going to be fine. What does this mean for the Gold Coast Suns? Well, I think it's a handy thing for them, but it's going to go one or two ways. Let's just be clear. This is going to be an absolute premiership winning move for the Suns, or within 12 months, he's lost to the AFL system. There's only one of two ways that this is going to play out, that this becomes the catalytic moment for him to take this opportunity to play AFL football at an elite level absolutely seriously, and to start to get the things in alignment that he needs to be able to maximize this opportunity that he's got. Or within 12 months, he's just not on the Suns list anymore. Let's choose to be positive people and believe the best. If this happens and he absolutely nails his opportunity here at the Suns, there's a world where this is awesome for the Gold Coast Suns. Ben King's one of the best tall forward options in the league at the moment, readily taking contested grabs, impacting the score, but a really nice throw it on the head, handy on the lead, yeah, getting it done, key position type forward. Ethan Reed's that kind of, well, probably long term, I think he's more likely to be a ruck. But when you've got a Ned Moyle sitting there, he's building and developing some forward craft. He becomes a nice relief ruck option to a Jared Witts, who's still going to be around and rolling through as the number one ruck choice in 2026. So Reed becomes kind of that ruck forward option. Ugle-Hagan can now play at his best sitting inside this forward line as kind of the third tall, play that lead up, play that connector hybrid forward, but also kind of get the second or third best defender depending on opposition teams' structures. Because athletically, Jamarra at his best got a really nice turn of pace, really nice set of hands, hard to match up on because of his height and athleticism. And I feel like when you've got a Reed and also a King, it just kind of protects a little bit of that. Long offers something defensively to this side. Then you can throw in a bunch of different options to rotate through that forward line. And it looks and feels pretty potent to me. So let's believe the best here and hope that for Jamarra's sake, all the variables land that he can get back to delivering on his high quality potential. And if this pops for the Suns in the way that it really could, this is scary. Throw in a Christian Petrarca and yikes, this forward line, it just feels like it's destined for chaos for opposition defenders and for opposition analysis from coaches. It's going to be a little bit chaotic in all the best kind of ways for the Suns. What does this mean for us in fantasy footy? Well, in 2023 and 2024, he averaged 60 plus, low 60s across the formats, and he played 20 plus games in each of those seasons. So that's a real positive sign for us through there. But he didn't play in 2025, and something we haven't really seen, at least to my immediate recollection, is a situation of what's happened with Jamarra. Is do the formats apply a discount to him because he didn't play? It's not a traditional physical injury that was the reason he didn't play, which is often the reason for the discount. So rather than guessing and wondering what it is, I'll put it this way. If there's a discount on Jamarra, we should, as the fantasy and SuperCoach community, be looking at it. If there's not, there's just no interest in me whatsoever. Even in a keeper league or a dynasty league or a draft league, I'd rather pick it up off the player pool after my initial draft. Yeah, I just want to see how this forward line functions. As optimistic as I was just moments ago about how it could all work, I'm just not sure he could ever be that 80 plus sort of forward for us. And that's as much about how he sits into the structure and who's in that forward line and how that ball movement takes place. I think if he gets the discount, we're looking at it. I don't know if it's going to be enough to make him classic relevant, but I think we'll at least be looking at what it could be. So Jamarra, we wish him, and I genuinely hope he is able to get back to playing footy and being at his best and delivering on his talent. The AFL as a product is better when our highly skilled players are absolutely delivering week in, week out. So I hope for his benefit and the Suns that absolutely happens. But for fantasy footy, I'm cautious to watch, but we need to see how the formats handle and allocate any discount that may or may not come his way. With discount, I'm interested. Without it, it's a no from me in 2026. But what's your take? Where do you see this going for both the Bulldogs and for the Suns? I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Every single player that moves clubs this trade and free agency period, we're dropping a video or an audio episode, depending on whether you're watching or listening to this episode. Make sure you come back to the channel, because as we get towards the final moments of the trade period, lots of episodes have dropped in. Chances are you've missed some. Maybe you're starting to reflect back on players going, oh, is that fantasy relevant? We got you covered. Make sure you go and check it out. Every player that's moved clubs, we've done or will do a review on them right here on the channel. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. We can't wait to be having you back on watching another episode as we talk about another player that's moved clubs this trade period.